Hi, and welcome to The Perfect Show. I'm your host, Scott. I'm what you might call a perfection prospector, sifting through life looking for little things or experiences that could be considered perfect. Join me each episode as I examine one topic that I'm presenting as one of these little nuggets of perfection. There was a time back when I was in high school, or maybe even before, when I would go out to a store for something. The one I'm thinking about right now is Target, but it could have been one of any number of department stores or sporting goods stores. And before leaving with whatever I came to get, I would take a short detour over to the camping section and check out the tents they had for sale. Now, I wasn't ever needing to buy a tent. I didn't even really like camping all that much, a point that was repeatedly confirmed through Boy Scouts. But the draw for me was that they showed you what the full-size tents would look like all put together by having miniaturized, fully assembled versions of them on display, which welcomed you to kind of like look all around them and inspect that model's features and details. Tiny stitching, like tiny flaps, little tiny rain flies, tiny mesh doors with tiny zippers, all the features of the big tent there in perfect miniature. I would walk back to visit these tents on my shopping trips, like going to check in on a friend's pet that I secretly think loves me more than them. But this perfect little row of display tents, each one slightly different, tents for 4 people or 6 people, tents with extra rooms, or tiny tents with tiny vents for when it gets hot. There was something intangibly pleasant about walking through this shrunken retail campsite, zipping flaps open and peering down inside. So for this episode, I will be exploring the perfection of these little tiny display tents, as well as when they vanished and where they went. For a long time, it was something that I kept to myself, a private joy of mine that I wouldn't talk with anyone else about because why would I? It's not like it was embarrassing, it was just something that would hardly ever just spring up in natural conversation. But when it did, I found out that I was far from alone in my fascination. One trip with a friend, I think I started making up some reason to venture back to the tiny tents, and my friend was like, dude, yeah, of course, those things are awesome. In fact, pretty much every time I've broached the subject with other people, I get this rush of enthusiasm spilling out back to me almost uncontrollably. People start gushing and telling me that they love these tiny tents too. Almost like they were just waiting for someone else to break the ice and get the conversation rolling. Researching for this episode, I found that my personal experience echoes that of tons of other people online. There are Reddit threads filled with people waxing poetic and remembering how much they always loved these tiny display tents. These messages usually include some version of, and all this time I thought I was the only one, or it was seriously hard to find information on the tiny display tents themselves sometimes due to all the different comments and results that were just people gushing in random ways over the internet about how much they love these things. The last time I remember seeing these in person was probably around 2009 or 2010, just after I moved back from Japan, and I saw them in various stores here in the Bay Area, like Target or REI, which is a big outdoor store that is here that I didn't have where I grew up. I was even ready to try and haggle to own one, and I remember asking a few different store employees about that possibility, but all of them told me it's really something that they couldn't sell, and the only time they can sell them or get rid of them is when they stop selling that model of tent, and at that point, the timing on that was pretty unpredictable, and employees themselves also usually know when that happens first and get first dibs on it, which totally makes sense. So then about a year or so after that, I think I noticed that they were gone from those 2 store chains, and I stopped seeing them or being able to find them anywhere else. I mean, it's hard to put a pinpoint on when you stop seeing something because it's only after a while of not seeing it that you really notice that it hasn't been around for a while. But I feel like it was probably around the 2011, 2012 time that I noticed that I just hadn't been seeing these and I wasn't seeing them anywhere. But I don't think I really questioned it, to be honest. The tiny tent seemed like the product of a past era. Now I was imagining interactive web pages where you can view, zoom, or spin digital recreations of the tents, lessening the need to have physical displays anymore. Over the 10 years since then, web development has only gotten more capable and digital displays are more widely used. So it would make total sense to me if everything had gone digital. Every tiny display tent had to be made individually, and then it's really only useful for one retailer in one location, meaning scaling up that process also directly scales up all the work for the tent makers. A digital copy, however, once it's built and deployed online, it can just be accessed by any customer or retailer anywhere in the world at the same time. So hopping onto websites for the biggest tent manufacturers, that's what I expected to find. But they seem instead to be focused on a good amount of photos and videos showing and describing the tents. I didn't really find any digital spinnable models like I had imagined at all. I did reach out to one of them, Coleman, through their contact page just to ask about the old physical tiny display tents and why they weren't around anymore. I wasn't holding my breath for a response. I mean, they're a big company. So I spent a bit of time also searching the internet for alternate options to see what other ways you could buy a tiny tent, the kind like I grew up seeing. There were some on eBay, a few genuine tiny display tents, but they were selling for about as much or even more than full-size tents cost. Even right now, I just looked these up to be sure that they're still there. It seems to be a route that's always going to be open as long as you're willing to pay the price for a ticket. And I love these in theory, but I just couldn't justify spending $100 to $200 on one of the tents just for this episode. So I continued my search. I actually ended up finding a few places that sell brand new small tents in this vein, one of which was tiniest.com. Reading the About Us page on the tiniest.com website, I discovered yet another pocket of store display tent fans, but they had actually gone out and created a product around it to allow others to get and own something we always were only ever able to visit in the stores. Now, from the look of it, these were a little different than the classic store display tents because they're designed for the purpose of being purchased and assembled by the consumer, whereas the other display tents were specifically designed to be perfect tiny replicas of that full-size tent for each one. Now, as far as I know, these tiny tents that I was looking at were designed to be built just based on their own thing, and they're not adapted down from a full-size tent which already existed. So I happened to discover them just as they were releasing a new model of tent, and it was at a price point I could manage. So I went ahead and bought one. I just had to wait for them to ship it to me. But that actually brings us to...
Have an announcement.
We have a sponsor, which means I get to do my first ever ad spot. I bought the tent using some birthday present money, so this episode is proudly brought to you by birthdays. Birthdays. Is your main problem with Christmas that it happens to everyone at the same time? Would you like a lot more attention with no pressure to share the spotlight? Then you need birthdays. Like a selfish Christmas you get all to yourself. Birthdays. Make other people all celebrate you instead of everybody celebrating the time together. Don't even limit it to the day itself. Be one of those people who announces that you require special attention for the entire week or even month you were born. Talking too loud? It's my birthday. Puke in the pool? Birthday. Make a fool of yourself at a concert? Birthday in 2.5 weeks, baby. So, if you are someone who has been born at any point in time, then this is a message just for you. Okay, reading the ad copy, and here's the call to action. For those of you who have been on the fence about having a birthday up until now, give it a go. Sometime this year, see if you can't make the time to have a birthday. I highly recommend it. Use the promo code PERFECT at checkout. Okay, also, so outside of this jokey ad, this is where I was going to tell you to go to birthday.com to enter the promo code, but I figured I should probably check through to see if that was already a real domain, and it is. but it's a parked domain for sale with a place to name your price. So I put in an offer, pretty high by my standards, $300, but clearly not enough to persuade whoever owns it. So I felt like my $300 was probably safe, but who knows, right? I was safe. It turned out very safe. In fact, I didn't know just how safe I was until I got the counter offer back, and their requested minimum wasn't the $300 I offered, but they started at $3 million. Yeah, $3 million. So birthday.com remains unbought. For now. Anyway, now back to the show. So, in the meantime, while waiting for my delivery, I continued to poke around, looking for why I and others are so attracted to these tiny tents. When something is so widespread, I start to wonder if there's something more than just the tiny tents being cute. So I got in contact with Dr. Carla Marie Manley, a clinical psychologist, podcast host, and author who agreed to talk with me for the show and help me try to understand some of the things going on below the surface with this widespread fascination with miniature objects.
I was going to say first, I was wondering if you could introduce yourself with your name and give your title, please.
Absolutely. I'm Dr. Carla Marie Manley. I'm a practicing clinical psychologist and wellness expert in Sonoma County, California. I'm also an author with 3 books, and my latest one is Date Smart, and my first one is Joy from Fear. So that's a little bit about me.
Welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for talking with me about this episode. I've been making an episode about tiny tents, the little tiny display tents that I would see in stores or at different places that kind of were the models of what the big tent would look like full size. So I was trying to figure out what it is about tiny stuff or miniature things that kind of speaks to us or draws us in. What sort of things would be behind that?
Absolutely. I think there are so many levels to it. And so, for example, when we see something little, whether it's let's go with the miniature tent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing that tent. So on a practical level, we're able to look at that tent and say, here are the proportions, here's the size, here's the shape. I can envision having that and doing something with it or not. So on a practical level, there is that piece that lets us look at it and see, does it work for our life? On another level, and actually many levels, tiny items, I believe, take us to a place of nostalgia, to childhood when we played with tiny versions of tools, of cars, of dolls, of hammers, things that we couldn't manipulate. We weren't strong enough to, or we couldn't afford at these different times in our lives, or simply were too small to be able to handle, right? And so as adults, we can look at these items and say, this is really interesting. Interestingly enough, we're approaching the holidays, and you see people with tiny objects everywhere, right? Miniatures on their trees,
sure.
Miniature this, miniature that. And that's
Mm-hmm.
another piece where we see that tiny objects give us the ability to hold on to and perpetuate, memories from childhood forward. So if it's somebody having a little train installation under their tree or something like that, it's an opportunity to say, I can't afford, nor do I want a full-sized train, buzzing around my property. But once a year, I can bring out this cute little train or this village or this little, set of animals or even a nativity set and be able to almost be transported to another place and time just by a mini. So you can see, even as I'm talking about it, for many people,
Yeah.
they're very soothed. And I remember growing up, my sisters, I had lots of older sisters, and they would unpack all of these mini Christmas items, just so much work, but it gave them such a sense of being grounded and soothed.
So I was also trying to think about this from a few different angles, and I wanted to run a couple of my thoughts by you and see what you thought about that. But I was thinking about, in the world of animals, the way I feel like around large animals versus around small animals. I think small animals give me a sense of ease where I don't feel threatened at all. And it's not like an object would threaten me, but I think I was wondering if feeling larger than a thing kind of makes me have a sense of ease where I don't feel in any way threatened. I don't know how to put that into a better phrase. The other direction I tried to think of was in the opposite, because it hasn't been a number of times, but sometimes if I'm around really massive objects like large geological things or big city like buildings, I get like a sense of perspective where I feel kind of insignificant in sort of it feels like a healthy way, sort of a humbling way. And I wonder if that works in reverse, sort of kind of makes you feel significant, or if I'm just now inventing completely.
I think you're absolutely onto something when you are, for example, I can't remember where I was, but there was a Lego city around us of all of these, the Golden Gate Bridge was done in Legos, the Eiffel Tower was done in Legos. So when you're, underneath the real Eiffel Tower, you're going, wow, it's magnificent. It's so huge. I'm so small in comparison. And then you're the opposite end where you're looking at the Golden Gate Bridge right there, and you could put your arm from one end to the other, or the Eiffel Tower, and you're taller than it. So it makes it feel like, oh, maybe I'm not so insignificant after all. Somebody at some point in time made a model of this scale, likely to create the ginormous structure, right? And so I do think it gives our minds a sense of, oh, well, I'm not so tiny and insignificant after all. And I think that's a very important piece, because that's, I believe, where we come from as children, when we are able to master, building something with Legos, or dressing a doll, or, painting a model car, where we get a sense of mastery, that we matter, that we can control our environment, and that then it prepares us for going out into the big world and being respectfully and beautifully overwhelmed by the magnificence of the real structures.
Fantastic. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Absolutely. Now, I wanted to plug your newest book, which we talked about earlier, but it just came out this summer, and it's called Date Smart: Transform Your Relationships and Love Fearlessly. So I was looking on your website at drcarlamanley.com. And in the book, you address a ton of common dating issues, like setting healthy boundaries and dealing with mistrust, spotting red flags, and even stuff like ghosting. I know a lot of people coming out of lockdown and an extended period in quarantine are just getting back into it. And there's probably a huge uptick in dating, and a ton of people could really use this advice right now.
I've had people comment who have read my book. They bought it for, somebody in their 30s, where they kind of scan through it, and they're like, oh my goodness, this is helping me in my relationship. So then they've bought another copy for the person it was intended for. And that the reason is, and I agree with you, for people who are venturing back out into dating, which is one of the reasons I wrote the book, because I have so many people who come to me for dating and relationship issues. And the essence of Date Smart is really finding out who you are, what do you have to offer, what do you want, respecting yourself. And then some people say, well, you should never date until you fully know yourself and fully love yourself. Well, then, I would probably never have dated in my life, because I will never fully know myself, and I will never fully love myself. It's a journey, right? And so that, to me, is what, relationships are about. I wrote Joy from Fear, which is a more intensive book. Joy from Fear really is focused on people who want global wellness in their lives from the inside out, particularly if they struggle with anxiety, depression, stress. So that's, a different type of book. And then the other book is Aging Joyfully, which is about, no matter what age you are, don't let yourself be limited by a number. Never.
Right.
Also on my website, there are free worksheets for people to download under the Your Journey section that give you an opportunity to do some self-work without paying a penny.
That's fantastic.
Thank you. And just one more piece about the
please,
the minis. Because I think there's a part too that we can't forget when we're looking at something miniature. We see it and it's intriguing. And we become curious because we look at it and we say, oh my goodness, look how tiny this is. Look, and we get curious. And curiosity is one of the most important things we can ever do, is to be curious. And I think that minis, whatever the miniature item is, it's just, they become fascinating. And our brains love to be fascinated. And so I want to end on that never forget the power of a miniature item, whether it's a little sandcastle or whatever it is, or a wonderful motorcycle that you'll never own, or you want to own, or you don't really want to own. Never forget the importance of allowing yourself to be fascinated.
Very wise advice, yes.
Yeah, I think that's very wise indeed. You can find Dr. Carla Manley at her website, drcarlamanley.com, where you can find information about her newest book, Date Smart, as well as her other books, and check out the podcast she hosts called Helping Families Be Happy. And I figured that was pretty much all I would be able to learn about these tiny tents from the outside, without some sort of connection or inside contact. I mean, how much is there really to track down for something like this that disappeared 10 years ago? But then, as I continued to wait patiently for my tiny tent to arrive, one morning I checked my inbox, and there, to my genuine surprise, was a response from Coleman, the tent company I had contacted earlier to ask if they had more information on these store display tents from years ago. My friend and actor, Chelsea Hinkson, agreed to help me out and be the voice of Coleman's email for this episode.
Dear Scott, thank you for contacting Coleman, the outdoor company. Our goal is to provide you with exceptional products and the highest quality of customer service. The miniature Coleman tents currently seen in stores are made only for retail accounts under special order. The tents are sent directly to the store and cost about the same as full-size models. Because of their size, the miniatures must be made by hand and cannot be mass-produced. No extras of the miniatures are made. The miniature tents are not sent back to Coleman, but are the property of the stores. Some stores may sell the miniatures at the end of the year. You might check with the store manager and see if a purchase is possible. We appreciate your business and we're happy to help. Sincerely, Coleman.
Okay, so apart from me being pretty excited to even receive this message, I also noted a few key details in it. It makes sense that the tents are only made via special order, and that because of the nature of that, they cost about the same to make as the big ones. That checks out both with what I imagined had to be the case logically and also what I was finding on eBay. It also checked out that these tents stayed with the stores, and then when they were no longer needed, they were just disposed of by the store in whatever way, or rescued from the trash by an employee in the right place at the right time. That confirms what I had heard a long time ago when I had originally started asking about these. The thing from this email that stuck out the most to me, though, was that the person writing this from Coleman was using all present tense verbs to talk about these tents.
Currently seen in stores. The tents are sent directly. No extras of the miniatures are made. See if a purchase is possible.
And, well, that doesn't feel like the way I should be reading about something that disappeared a decade ago. So I followed up to ask more questions about that and to see if I could get any more information about the current state of these display models, if there was such a thing. And then a little while later, I got another reply from them. Here's Chelsea again.
Dear Scott, thank you for your prompt response. We are glad to provide you the information for the tiny tents. As we checked, the tiny tents are still being manufactured as some of the retail stores still have them on display. We do not have the information about where these tents are now. However, these tiny tents can be located at physical stores since they are being used as a display. We appreciate your business and we are happy to help if you have any further questions. Sincerely, Coleman.
Wait, did I read that right?
Some of the retail stores still have them on display. These tiny tents can be located at physical stores since they are being used as a display.
I had just assumed I was right, that when I stopped seeing them, it was because the companies stopped using them. But now it seemed like maybe that was just a change in the stores that I had seen them at before, and that they may still be out there after all. Could it be that simple? I had to dig deeper. So I had last remembered seeing them in 2009 and 2010. And on my first research dive, I had seen people posting about these in a few archived message threads from that time. So I just figured that was the end of the story. But now I was back, looking again with new eyes, and this time I found a lot more. It's funny how many things you can find only once you know that you should be actually looking for them. So it turns out my search led me to Reddit and to a subreddit called r/mildly interesting, which, to be honest, feels almost like a passive-aggressive jab of a categorization. But anyway, I found one post from 4 years ago with a picture of several Field and Stream tents in a store display. And the comments reveal tons of personal stories of both people wanting these tents and the retail employees talking about what happened to the ones at their stores when they were done. Some were given away to employees, and some were even sold to customers. And yet other stores would sell them off in a silent auction and then give the money that they raised to charity. And with all the tents being the property of the stores, and at the point when they're no longer selling the model that the display is for, it really seems to become a mixed bag of what the plan is for each store. And at this point now, I've seen over a dozen different versions of how they were dealt with. So it was not a standard process. It was very much place by place, it seems. But this whole discovery, and it being only 4 years ago, completely re-energized me. I started calling places, first close by and then farther. Where would I have luck? I called a lot of REI locations and also tried my hand at a few smaller camping stores. But big, small, it didn't matter. Pretty much every phone call went like this.
Thank you for calling Bass Pro Shops. Our world's foremost outfitters are excited to help you get connected to the great outdoors. To better assist you, please listen to the following options.
Okay.
For store hours and location,
Probably hitting 0,
press
right?
1. For
Yeah. Oh, what do we got? Okay. It's the middle of the day. It shouldn't be impossible. Uh-oh, it just transferred, I bet. We'll get a recording now. Let's see. Hello? Hi. Yeah, I'm looking to talk to someone, I guess, in camping or about tents.
All right, let me get you over there. Hold on one sec.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
Maybe I need the 3-prong? Is that what worked before?
Hello, camping?
Hey, I have a question about tents, if that's okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is kind of strange, but in your tent department, do you guys have just pictures of the tents, or do you have those like tiny display tents that show you what they'll look like when they're built? Do you know what I mean?
No, we only have the pictures.
Gotcha. Okay, that's what I figured. And how late are you guys open tonight?
I think 7. Yeah, till 7.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's all I needed.
No problem.
All right, have a good one. Bye.
You too.
Then I stumbled upon another post in the same subreddit from only 3 years ago, Getting Closer. It also had a thread of similarly themed comments, but this one had a new clue for me at the top. It labeled the picture as being from a sporting goods chain called Dick's Sporting Goods. I had seen some talk about the tents at a chain called Sports Authority, but they had all closed their locations in 2016. Dick's, however, was still around and is a place I noted to make sure to check in with. Then the third and final post in the subreddit about these tents was from only 2 years ago, the summer of 2019. It had similar comments, and it was encouraging that it was from so recent, but there was really no new information to aid me in my search. The new nugget I did have to cling to, though, was to search out at Dick's Sporting Goods. And there were 3 in my area, so I did some poking around and discovered that this was the store where the displays pictured in the first 2 Reddit posts were taken. Same signage, fixtures, same merchandise. Now, here's where I did something a bit out of my ordinary playbook. Maybe it was because I just made so many phone calls, or maybe the Reddit posts and lack of having considered this store before was just filling me with some confidence. But whatever it was, I decided not to call ahead and instead go with the gut instinct to just go to the store and see if I could find them there. Of course, I would need a partner on this endeavor, so I recruited one of my favorites, my wonderful daughter.
This is gonna look so weird.
What is?
The microphones. And that we're tied together.
We just have to kind of walk and be not sneaky.
I know, but it looks so weird in this. It's gonna look weird in public, which is what I'm worried about.
It's not going to be that bad.
Yes, it is.
Well, we'll give it a test out in the parking lot and see what you think. You're worried about the microphones, though, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, they're tiny microphones. I know how to hide
No,
these.
I'm not worried about the microphones. I'm worried about the cord.
Yeah, we put it like underneath our clothes and then nobody sees it.
That's too weird.
So you know I'm making an episode about tiny tents, right?
Right.
I got a reply from a tent making company to an email I sent, and they said that some stores still have them. So I started looking around. This seems like the type of store that might have them. People took a picture of the tiny tents in there as recently as 2 years ago.
If they were here 2 years ago, they could totally have been sold out in those 2 years.
Totally true. And they could totally have changed the way they show off their tents. Now, if it's there...
How are you going to buy it?
Whoever I'm talking to, if they say, you know what, I would sell this to you for $30, I'd do that. I'd probably do that.
What if they said they'll sell it to you for $1,000?
Okay, this is good. If they said $1,000, I would definitely not do it. Definitely not.
If they said $100, I definitely would not do it.
So I was going to say, where's my line? It's somewhere between
40.
30. It's somewhere between 30 and 1,000. And I think you're right. If they said $100,
No.
I would think about it for a second, but I wouldn't actually think about it. Now, if they say $50,
50 can be your limit.
I might think about that. I still think it's probably a bad use of $50.
I feel like 40 should be your limit.
It's a bad use of $50. I mean, it's a bad use. I don't need it. But $50 might get my gears turning. And I might start thinking about, would I be in this ballpark? Now, $40, I think I'd be more likely to go, you know what, let's just do this. $30, I go, yes.
I just want to make sure that you have enough money to buy me a treat.
I have enough money to buy you a treat.
You sure?
I'll get you a treat.
Good.
We're good.
I think you should just try my plan while I'm pretending to be it, of you give the highest, then you start going down.
Okay. Sir? Lady?
Yes?
I need to buy this tent.
Sorry, it's
$40. $39.
Okay, fine, I'll do it for 40.
No, I said 39. You missed out on 40.
Fine.
38. 37.
Now
36.
I'm getting annoyed with you. You are out
This
of
was your plan. This was your big plan. You told me this was the way to
No,
do
I was
it.
going to have you say that you were going down and have
I am going down.
And, well, you didn't tell me you were doing that.
You figured it out right away, though.
No, that's because I know what you were trying to do.
What?
And you need to say how quickly you're doing it.
I told you how quickly. I'm just counting it down, one by one.
Fine, start again.
All right. I'm offering you $40.
Okay. I have to answer quickly or else you're going down in
But
like
you
a
didn't
second.
know. How would you know? You didn't know that I was going down at that time. All right. You have to wait until you figure out that I'm going down, and then you have to start accepting.
Okay.
Ready? I'm going to offer you $40 for that tent. No? 39.
Wait, what?
38.
No, give me.
37.
Give me okay, fine, you can have it.
35.
You can have it.
34.
You can have it.
30, for how much? 33?
No.
32.
No, for
31.
You can have it.
30.
You can have it.
29.
You can have it.
You just give it to me? You're just going to give it to me?
No, you can
I
have
like
it for
this.
29.
30, 28.
Ah,
27.
stop it. If you go that quickly, I refuse.
It's never gonna work. I know.
Put in buckle.
Yes. All right, so we're here.
No, we're here.
Yeah, we're here.
The worst time of my life.
No, we're about to do the best time.
All
right. So then we took off all our gear, got out of the car, hooked it all back up, and headed inside to look for these tents. All right, we're looking for tents. Tent and camping stuff. Oh, I see it over here.
Where? Where does it say tent and camping?
Over here I see tent and camping brand.
I'm not as tall as you, so I can't see tent and camping.
I know. It doesn't say tent and camping. It says Coleman and Thule, Bertulli, Field and Stream.
There's one thing that I do like about doing this.
What's
I
that?
like how warm the inside of the store is.
Yeah, you haven't been into a lot of stores because you haven't. We were waiting until you were vaccinated, huh? All right, now this is the spot. So the tents are here.
What is this?
It's a small tent.
It's a small tent?
Uh-huh. Well, it's not. I mean, it's not a tiny tent, but it's meant for. Looks like probably 1 to 2 people.
Having a mask.
3 people. 3P. Huh. Well, no tiny tents here. I was thinking we might run into them, but shocker. It's okay. So, even here, where I thought there might be one, it looks like they don't do them anymore either here.
Let me see here. What's it? What are these?
Those are sleeping bags.
Okay. Here, follow me. You kind of have to.
I do. We're at a package deal right now. Where are you taking me?
This way. I think I saw a tent thing.
Did you? Let's just double check to make sure. And that's the answer. It's no tiny ones, just the regular sized tents. What do you think? Okay, I take full responsibility for that one not working. My gut let me down this time, and I absolutely could have called first and just saved myself the trip. But I did get one piece of new information from an employee who wasn't able to go on the record. She said she's been there for 30 years, and when I told her I was making a podcast about these tents, she told me how much she dug them too, but that they had all been gone from the store for months. I stopped to make sure I had just heard right. I'm sorry, did you say months? I asked. I was under the impression that these had been gone for years. Oh no, she replied. She told me that the store she was in had only gotten rid of theirs earlier this year. This year, as in 2021. Yes, she said. She saw them as late as the first few months of this year. Oh man. I was excited to find out that they were still around years after I assumed that they had vanished, but now finding out that these were so close and yet still just as gone as those from 10 years ago, well, I'm not really sure how to describe that feeling. Does it feel worse to only barely miss something rather than to whiff it by a mile? I know it doesn't seem to feel better. And I wish I had a better landing to stick than that, you know? I was really expecting that at the end of this tunnel, I'd have managed to figure out some way to track down the genuine article store display tents somewhere and find them once more out in the wild. But then again, maybe it's not the end forever, just for now. And then after all that, hello, there was one last piece of this puzzle that was still in motion. Thank you. A package delivery from North Carolina addressed to one recently disheartened podcast host. And inside, a pretty excellent consolation prize. My tinietents.com order had arrived. And we're recording.
Meow.
Meow.
Meow. Okay, so what I thought we'd do is get out this tent and put it together.
and then see if we could get the cats interested in playing it. But this is a tiny tent.
Dump it
And
out,
it's-
dump it out, dump it out.
So what do we got here?
Tent poles.
We have a flat, kind of unrolled version. Tent poles.
2 packs.
Okay. I slid mine, down the edge. So there are these tiny tent poles.
You're a tiny tent pole.
But they don't go together, really.
Well,
oh, wait, they do.
Each one has like a...
Magnetic thing.
Oh,
I think
it's got like a elastic...
Oh, yeah,
it's
it
like
has
a regular,
like an elastic thing that
it's
pulls
like
them together.
It's like a regular tent pole. It's just tiny.
Boop. Well, I
Alright.
don't know much about setting up tents.
How many tent poles do we have total? Are these different lengths? We have long ones and short ones here. Okay. Did this come with instructions? It probably did.
I hope it did.
Oh, you know what? It's probably this wrapped up here. It probably did. Check inside that bag.
I found this. I don't think these are instructions.
Here they are. Here they are. Here they are. So here are the instructions. We have the front door. We were thinking this is the front door.
Okay.
And then we slide in the
Are
long
there multiple
poles.
doors?
I don't know yet.
Maybe.
We slide the poles in, assemble another long pole, put it on the other.
Come back. I think there's only one door.
You slide the.
There's
It
side
looks like you
windows and
slide
one
the
door.
poles in through these little holes. See
We have to push it through
that tiny hole.
the loop, and then follow the same line of loops, I think.
Hold on, it's hard to get open the loop.
You want me to hold it open? Something open?
Yeah. Or you can start pushing through on this side of the...
Got one.
loops.
I'm working on number 2. Got 2.
How are you getting these loops open?
I'm sticking my finger.
I
I'm
don't think
sticking
your
my
fingers
nail
are the
in,
best
then
for
my
that,
finger.
Scott, no offense.
Okay.
I can help with that part.
I got it.
Because I'm good at
Push it
that.
this way.
Yes, good this
All right,
way.
we're going to have a traffic jam here in the middle. Now it says to put the pins in, even though I don't feel like it's very intuitive.
What do you mean?
The pins go into the bottom to hold it in.
Yeah. What do you mean by intuitive?
I thought maybe it would be like a pin-sized hole for it, but it looks like a
I
large
know.
hole.
It's way too big.
But maybe if we start with one pin on one side. So here's what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to put one
These
pin
aren't
over.
tiny tent stakes? You think that these are holding it in?
Yes. Okay, here we go. So, more tent stake. Good, good, good. And then when you have enough,
I can pin
put one of those 2 pins into the bottom. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, that fits.
You got it? Good. Okay.
I'm getting better at this.
Yeah, it's getting quicker.
Snowy?
Which is good because Snowball's getting more impatient.
Set it in. Good. This is more work than I thought it would be.
Well, I mean, we're building a tent. This is still bigger than I remember the tiny tents
Yes.
being.
This looks like it could be functional for a small animal.
Right.
Like the other ones, I feel like were
We're like
tinier,
gerbil
like a
sized.
little bit
Yeah,
more mini,
Uh-huh.
like doll-like.
This one in.
Next.
Oh,
Wait, don't go too
pull,
far.
Don't pull on it. Let me push, because if you pull on it, we can...
Wait, don't go too far because you want to be able to stick it into the next one.
So let me
back a
open
little
the
bit.
next one. This is a cool tent.
It's very cute.
Good.
Okay, hers is in.
Okay?
Oh, Snowball.
Snowball is like,
Snowball,
what?
it's the right size for
do
you.
you
I don't know
have?
about the doorway.
She'll be good. She'll fit.
You also have a big booty. A big long booty.
You in?
Okay. In.
And I'm in too. Do you want to introduce the cat to the microphone? Or do you want to describe the cat?
Who is this cat?
This is Snowball.
Describe her.
She is a lilac Siamese, and she's very playful and curious about what we're building.
Yes. Okay, cool. Awesome.
Can I open up the door?
I think we need to open up the door.
I don't know.
She'll be
barely
fine.
There's a screen door.
Open the screen door then. What's it like inside?
Inside there's a zipper.
Now, it looks like they have little loops.
Yeah, they do.
They have little loops to tie up
I can do
the
it.
window flaps.
I want to do that. I can do that.
Snowball got up. Oh, look, she's looking in the window.
She's definitely interested.
She's looking inside.
Let me see what's inside here.
Wait,
look.
but when she goes in, do it at an angle so I can see her.
Oh, of course.
Snowball, go in. Uh-oh.
She's trying to figure out how.
Oh, are you dum-dum? Snowball, go in.
But this isn't the door.
Oh,
This is the window.
you're the window.
All right, so here we are.
Welcome in.
Snowball, would you like to give it a test?
Oh.
She might be able to fit.
Aww.
She fits.
Wait, let me get a shot. Let me get a picture in there.
Look.
So she immediately took to the place. Snowball. Snowball?
Oh. Oh, you cute.
Oh,
Oh, you cute. Hi, cutie.
she really likes that.
Hi, cutie.
She's going to dig that place, actually. That's a nice size for her. I was worried it would be too small.
Me too.
And actually, if it was a tiny tent the size that I remember, it would have been too small for her. But this is great because
she fits perfectly.
she'll love that spot.
She's settling herself in.
Yeah, of course. She looks good inside there too.
You look good.
And it turned out I had a little bit of birthday money left over after getting the tent, so I used it on something to reward us for completing the build successfully.
So here's what I thought we would do. I wanted to make tiny s'mores with our tiny tent. And so here's what I got. I got Golden Graham cereal.
Can I taste test one?
Yeah, we'll have to taste test one. But this is our graham cracker, Golden Grahams.
Cutie. Oh, you're cute.
I have miniature marshmallows. And I have chocolate. And then we're going to roast the miniature marshmallows on these tiny lights. Tea lights.
Snowball.
All right. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's open up the Golden Grahams and test them, okay?
Yeah.
Make sure these are good.
Yeah.
You've never had Golden Grahams before?
No.
How old are you?
8.
Okay, well, this is a big thing. Now, these were a thing I ate when I was a kid. I think I was allowed to have these because they didn't have marshmallows in them, and they didn't have, like, candy in them, but they were still sweet, so they were, like, just on the other side of the line. Like, Kix and cornflake.
I do not think this is on the same level as Kix and cornflakes.
No, those are healthier. And this was my more unhealthy.
They do taste like
spectrum.
graham crackers.
Yeah, they're little graham crackers. Little tiny graham crackers that we're going to use to make teeny tiny s'mores.
We need to taste test the marshmallows
Yeah,
too.
I think so. I think you're right. So, taste one.
Let me taste this marshmallow. Can I have a graham cracker also?
No.
What?
What? You're going to eat them together? No, you have to wait.
Ugh. Can I please have a few marshmallows?
Can I please have a few Golden Grahams?
Jeez.
Oh my gosh. You two are really difficult to podcast with.
One marshmallow.
Before you light it, please explain the whole thing.
Oh.
Thank you.
So what are we using this toothpick for?
These are our marshmallow roasters.
May I
So
have one?
you have to take a marshmallow, you have to put it on the toothpick.
Like this?
That's right. So I don't know how quickly or slowly this will be.
Do we have to have one light each, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think just one light,
Just do one.
like a campfire.
Somebody else can have this marshmallow.
Then I'm
I
going to
want
get
two.
the chocolate ready. So here's what we have to do.
2.
After we...
That chocolate's not proportionate.
It's not. I looked for small chocolate. I found...
Chocolate chips, bro.
No, they're not the right shape, though. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to break this into teeny
tiny
squares.
pieces.
Those look really good.
Thank you.
Get the golden grams out too.
Yeah, bro.
And you guys know how to make s'mores, right? I was thinking these shouldn't be called s'mores. We need like a different name because they're small, like
Teeny tiny s'mores.
s'morps.
No.
S'morps. Match lit.
Candle lit.
Candle lit. Blow it out.
Blow out the match.
Marshmallows are being cooked.
Don't give it space. I don't know how much it takes to cook a mini marshmallow. I've never actually tried to toast it.
Good. Look at how good my marshmallows are.
I think you've got a lot of control happening on yours. Oh, ooh, I started to get browning.
That's why I'm not going that close.
No, it's good. It means that I'm like almost done.
Mine aren't.
Okay, I think mine's ready.
I think mine is okay.
Be careful with that flame.
Putting the chocolate on. I'm putting the graham cracker, and I've got my
I think mine's ready.
heated up
put it
thing,
here.
and then my other graham cracker.
And then make a little sandwich and then pull out the stick.
Yeah.
Like this. Like this.
Okay.
Ta-da.
Hold on, here we go. Look at this.
Good.
Good.
Let me eat mine.
They're little bite-sized s'mores.
Cute.
That's cute.
I love
Again,
it.
more marshmallows.
Yeah,
Again,
more.
more marshmallow.
You can see pictures from this whole process on the webpage for this episode, or I'll have them up on the Instagram as well. This seems like good content for that. But check out our tiny tent and our cat and the tiny s'mores we were making and all the fun we had.
Ooh. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Getting it on fire is not a bad move, by the way.
I'm not going to try.
It's not a bad move.
Now let me just catch a marshmallow.
The marshmallows and graham crackers, that's the right ratio.
I'm going to eat one extra.
Oh my gosh, why do you keep reaching above the fire?
Because the cereal is over on the other side.
But the fire is right here.
Jeez.
Weird. When they catch on fire, you can hear them on the microphone.
Yeah, right?
Did you hear that?
Yeah,
they
yeah,
like
yeah.
have a crackle.
Yeah.
Even though we're not like shoving them right up on the microphone,
yeah.
there's this like,
It's the crackle of the fire.
look, you're on fire, bro. Blow it out.
Ooh.
Ooh.
That's okay.
Here, hold on.
Snowball in that tent is way cute.
I know. I'm a big fan.
Did you think she was going to want to be in it?
I thought it was going to be too small for her.
Me too.
She's a 12-pound cat.
She's a big cat.
She's the biggest cat we know.
That's good.
You ate it without the s'more.
What's good?
Just eating the marshmallow. Like toast it and then eat it like a regular roasted
Yeah.
marshmallow.
Oh, sure.
Perfect. Oh. Oh yeah, that's really good.
I forgot how good golden grams are. They're fun.
I forgot how good s'mores are.
Really? I remember them. This is nice.
That's what people say around campfires also.
It is.
Perfect.
All right. Well, let's stop the recording and I'll put away the equipment. Thank you all for doing this with me, okay?
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it.
Got a tiny tent that we built together, and we ate some s'mores that we cooked real careful on a tiny adventure that we had inside. And here's a tiny song about that tiny time. Do 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 do
And with that, those tiny display tents in stores become the next entry into the Perfectorium, the index of perfect things. Don't forget you can also find a direct link to the Perfectorium by going to perfectshow.site/perfectorium. You can find all the credits and links for the music in the show notes or on this episode's webpage. Special thank yous once again to Chelsea Hinkson, Ben Rayburn for singing the song you just heard, and Dr. Carla Manley, who you can find on drcarlamanley.com, and her newest book, Date Smart, is available now wherever books are sold. And I want to also extend apologies to the dozens of camping stores and sporting goods stores that I called asking questions about tiny tents. Subscribe if you'd like to get every episode, and if you're enjoying these and want to drop The Perfect Show a perfect rating or review, especially on Apple Podcasts, please do. It's the easiest way to support the show. This episode was recorded and mixed at Morena Studios in Oakland, California. Once again, the Perfect Show site is at perfectshow.site. That's S-I-T-E. Email any comments, music, or other things to perfectshowshow@gmail.com. I'm particularly interested to hear from people who may also have a fascination with these tiny tents, or if you are out in the wild and you see them somewhere in a store, I'd love to hear from you. So connect on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube to the name Perfect Show Show.
Thank you for calling Big 5 Alameda. This is Alex again. How can I help you?
Hi, I wanted to speak with someone in tents or camping, I guess.
Sure. 1 second, okay?
Thank you. And remember, just because the episode ends doesn't mean my abnormal obsession does too. I'm still holding out hope that maybe someday I'll pass through the right door or call the right store and these extinct creations suddenly prove to be not so extinct after all.
Hello, sir?
Hello, I had a question about tents, I guess?
Yeah, go for it.
Where you guys sell the tents, do you actually have the tiny, display tents that show what they'll look like full built, or is it just with, photographs and pictures? Or?
Just photographs and pictures. Our store is too small to put displays out.
Gotcha. Okay, right on. Thank you for letting me know.
No problem.
All right, bye. Anyway, until next time, I'm Scott Maupin, and thanks for listening to The Perfect Show.
I can eat 50 eggs.